So, what a weird way to start. This is the vlog for October 5th, 2018. And I just had a hallucination. I don't really know what else to call it. This room is fairly small, it's a little guest room. And so, how do I put this? You see over here down here. Just a minute ago, I convinced myself that I saw movement and that movement was Leo hopping behind that suitcase. That honestly happened. I don't exactly know why. I don't know why I just assumed it was Leo. In fact, I didn't even see enough of anything there to identify it as a cat. It was movement that my brain was convinced I saw. It could have been a moth that had gotten into the house. Although I stepped over there and looked around for anything that would have been moving. Didn't see anything. I've had one or two occurrences where I was sure that I visually saw Leo in front of my own eyes. One was about a week ago, turning on a light. I was sick, and when I'm sick, that's actually one of the most common times for me to have hallucinations. They usually take the form of semi-conscious dreams, where I'm partially asleep, but my eyes are sort of open, and my visual field has stuff in it, and then my brain populates it with things that I just assume are there. When I got really sick as a kid, I would hallucinate that I saw lines of little goblins or gnomes or just little people marching along the lines of my quilt. And so the fact that I had a hallucination while I was sick is not terribly surprising, but what happened was I'd woken up, and I don't remember why exactly, but I went into the room off to the side of the hall where my room is, and I turned on the light. And Leo had been fond of sleeping on the daybed in that room throughout his life. And at night, it was one of the most common places that I would ever find him sleeping. He would usually join me in the morning, right before I got up to feed him. He was hungry and he was trying to get me to wake up and feed him earlier, although he always waited to really lay into me until my alarm would go off. That was sort of how I trained him. Alarm would go off and I would feed him. I had not a lot, I had some dreams about him. Dreams where I would see him through a window, sort of far off in the distance, which almost made it seem more real. But in one particular case, I reached out and I felt him. I felt his fur under my fingers, which is a very familiar sensation. And this is going to make me sad, and I apologize if it makes anybody who ever finds this video sad. I remember the last thing I thought as I was reaching out and touching his fur and the fur of one of my other cats who has been passed away for over a decade. I thought and I said to myself, "You're really real. You're really here." And that was when I woke up. It wasn't so corny, it'd be really, truly heartbreaking and wonderful writing, but that's what happened. That's just what the brain wanted. My grandfather suffered from dementia for a long time before he finally passed away, also about 10 years ago. And I've kept an eye on my dad as he has gotten older. And he's right about the age when Grandpa started to sort of He didn't show signs of dementia necessarily. He started to slow down. Thankfully, my dad is still sharp as a tack and not slow in the least. He doesn't have any trouble. He has trouble understanding complicated concepts of technology that I might try to tell him about, but he tries to figure out his phone, and in fact, he learns about apps. And when my sister is like, "Hey, I'm doing this, I'm using this thing," he'll be like, "Oh, let me see if I can figure that out." It helps too that he's a big mechanical guy. He restores cars, and so a lot of his spare time is spent doing the sort of mental exercise that has been recommended for decades to help fight the onset of Alzheimer's, dementia, and other mental degenerative illnesses. Um, and grandma, for what it's worth, is, she turned 98 this year. She's going to hit 100. I'll bet you anything. And she is still totally with it. She has a lot of trouble hearing at times, but my cousin was getting married, and I was looking around thinking to myself, yep, I'm the last single one. Everybody said, okay, all the cousins, all of grandma's grandchildren with grandma. We all scooted in, all 9 of us, scooted in the frame, and I was standing behind grandma, and I put my hand on her shoulder. She reached up and put her hand on mine and says, "Do you feel inspired?" Which I assume meant inspired to get married myself. Grandma, I don't have anyone particularly special that I could be doing that with. If I found a girl that I really liked, I would be doing it, but it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world. So, but Ben, he's 36, and this is his. I mean, he just got married, so certainly we can go for a long time without getting married and be quite happy when we finally do. So, but yeah, mental breakdown is something that I think about a lot. Um, I've had very, very vivid dreams. I've had circumstances where I woke up and was certain that there was somebody standing over me. I've gotten up. I woke up last night convinced that there was something going on in my room. I feel like I'm losing my mind sometimes, and I know that I'm not. I know that this is actually pretty normal for some human brains to go through dreams like these. I've never hurt myself. And the closest I've ever got to sleepwalking was to try and sort of struggle to get my covers off. Or the weirdest thing was when I woke up, I was convinced I was in a different room. It was dark and I couldn't see. I was convinced I was in a different room and that nothing was laid out where it should be, so I couldn't find the light next to my bed to turn it on. That was sort of concerning. Some of them really are nightmares. But yeah, I watch my dad very carefully, and it's possible that he just got whatever genes my grandma had to keep her, clear, and that I'll be okay too. But maybe it skips a generation. It's hard to say. But at the very least, I have a record of this. I have a record of me telling the internet, what I have experienced, what I've been through, what I can expect. I miss Leo though. I did sleep a little bit better sometimes when he was there. He wasn't meowing to get me to feed him. Anyway, I'm Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.